we'll first talk about the lunations, and then I chose 6 other aspecting transits involving Mercury, Venus, Jupiter, and Saturn. On July 14th, we have the Cancer new moon, 21 degrees, 58 minutes. This is happening at 5:54 a.m. Eastern time, so definitely check your time zone because it could be happening later in the evening on the 13th. And the reason we have this new moon, again for context, is the new moon is in Cancer because we are in Cancer season. That is when the sun and the moon are in the same spot. So they're both in Cancer at the same time, and they're both at, in fact, the same degree, and that's how we get the new moon. For this lunation, that means we are calling in emotional safety, peace and quiet, maybe some memories, some nostalgia, and of course, our intuition. You want to look at your chart between 16 and 26 degrees approximately of Cancer to see are there any placements there that could be pulled into this energy. If you want to go for extra credit for deeper analysis, you want to look at that range across a bunch of other signs to see, is there a sextile, is there a square, is there a trine, is there an opposition within your chart that energy is being pulled into this new moon. When we have a new moon, what we may opt to do, if you would like to participate, is you can have a manifestation practice, meaning you are setting some sort of intention, you are casting out into the universe. This is something that I would like in my life. This is how I want to grow or change. This is what I would like to be open to receiving, and maybe more than what I can even think of and fathom right now. So trying to tap into the higher vibrational energy of potential. And this is over approximately a 6-month period of time. So what this means is that full moon in Cancer is on December 23rd. So you're saying between July 14th and December 23rd, what are you looking to achieve or receive? And you can look at that 21 degree 58 minutes for the specific house that this sign is in, because you may have multiple. So if you don't use whole sign system, then the specific house at that degree. And you could use that to inform what you want to call in and just give it a little bit more direction. But you don't have to do that. You can just cast out anything. Or you could base it off of the signatures of Cancer that I mentioned earlier, or a combination of all of the above if you want to really hit in that sweet spot. And other things that you could do in addition to a manifestation practice on this day, really great day to energetically reset. So that could be through cleaning or organizing. Doesn't have to be a deep clean, but just something. It's just shifting the energy. And also just doing some sort of a self-care practice, especially for Cancer. We maybe neglect that because we're doing the tending and the caring and the helping of other people. And it's good to give a little bit of that love back to ourselves. So that's a practice that would be great. Whatever strikes your fancy, but something that allows you to, self-nurture. We have a full moon in Aquarius at 6 degrees, 29 minutes, 10:35 a.m. Eastern time. Energy is heightened. Our intuition could be heightened, even for a sign of Aquarius, which isn't particularly sensitive, if you will. So it's not as intense as if it was a Scorpio full moon, but there's still something going on. As a baseline, when we have a full moon, there's amplified energetics. So we would be encouraged, as always, to rest, to hydrate, and be open to receiving whatever might be coming through. The main call to action is reflection. It's the light of the moon. What were we doing approximately 6 months ago? Where was our life then? And what have we achieved? Where, Aquarius, have we grown? Where have we innovated? What have we rebelled against or revolutionized? Those are the kinds of questions that we can ask ourselves for this lunation. So that last new moon in Aquarius happened at 28 degrees on February 17th. So this window, July 29th, we're looking back at February 17th and the whole time in between and expressing gratitude, recognizing ourselves, what we've changed, achieved, and what we have received. If you had done a manifestation practice where maybe you wrote down what you wanted to call in, you can refer back to that list and check it off. What happened? What actually did happen? Or was there anything else not on there that you received that is the or better? That maybe you were like, oh, I didn't get any of these things, but actually I got this, which is like a step up from that. Or it's a different version of that other thing. And you know what? That's worked out better. That's the kind of conversation that you can have with yourself. Venus, which is a planet of peace, love, harmony, on July 9th enters Virgo. Now, Venus is in its fall in Virgo. And what this means is it's not totally dysfunctional, but it's not happy. Now, I've always found this to be pretty interesting because I would think, oh, well, Virgos like wants things to be nice and neat and organized and like look good. And you would think that Venus would love being there, but it does not because Virgo is very structured. It's too structured for Venusian energy. And a really easy way to remember this, and again, these dignities, which is something else I talk about in my course, um, falls and exaltations are opposite each other. So Venus is exalted in Pisces, meaning it's really excited and loves being in Pisces. Oh, it's creative, it's fun, it's talking about relationships and people, and this is great. And so then when it's in the sister sign of Pisces, which is Virgo, it's unhappy. And that's like a good way to remember it. We'll probably want to beautify things, specifically our processes. How could we bring more ease or literal nice aesthetics to our routines, to our language, to how we're communicating, how we're approaching things? Generally, just more balance. If we're feeling like we're carrying a lot or we're juggling a lot or we're trying to perfect a lot or maybe overexerting ourselves, then when Venus comes in, it's like, okay, you're a hot mess. We need to stop all of this. We need to slow down. We need to come off the gas. If you're looking for a comp of the last Venus and Virgo transit, if you want to get into the mindset of what might that experience look like for you, then you'll want to look back at September 19th through October 13th of 2025. And our main question that we'll want to ask ourselves during this transit is, where can I relax in my routines? Very simply, take that question as you will. Keep drilling down if you would like. 2 days later, Venus opposes the North Node. So if you remember, the first transit we talked about for this month in the first forecast was Mars squaring the North Node. So now this is in opposition. That's because Venus is several signs ahead, going around the wheel, has moved faster than Mars has, as it should, and has got to the point of being in an opposition in the sister sign. And to Roseanne's question earlier when we're talking about the nodes, so what this is saying is that if Venus is in Virgo, then that means at this point in time, the North Node is in Pisces. And as we know, the next eclipse season in August, there is going to be North Node in Pisces. So it's still going to be in there, in that period of time in July going into August. And then, it's going to keep bouncing around. So that also gives us an indicator. When Venus is in opposition to the North Node, inherently, that means it's conjunct the South Node because those are exactly opposite each other. So we want to carry both of those definitions and descriptions at the same time. So when we are a quote unhappy Venus, that's like, oh gosh, it was just, person would just chill out a little bit. Like we need to relax. Well, that call for relaxation then meets up with the South Node, which is our general lesson during this time about releasing what is dysfunctional about Virgo, the low vibrational energy. So Venus is like, yeah, let's do that. Let's do some releasing because this isn't working. This is not working for me. It's not working for anyone. And what we're trying to release, and I've talked about this in several videos and on my blog, perfectionism, control, overthinking, overexerting, overscheduling, yada, yada, yada. So Venus is trying to encourage, oh, yes, let's relax into that releasing. Again, this may feel pleasant. It might not feel pleasant. It depends on where you are in that spectrum. And at the same time, it's in opposition to the North Node in Pisces, which means that and Venus is like, oh, I wish I was over there. It's like that kind of a feeling. But that means, as Carrie was asking before, that's a challenge. So the North Node is being challenged by Venus to relax, to embrace, to lean into the higher vibrational side of Pisces, empathy, creativity, intuitive connection to all. Which self-care practices will nourish my soul? Virgo is great with health and routine, but let's be honest. What isn't working that's not actually nurturing us? What should we be letting go of? Maybe we're getting rid of a routine and we're replacing it with something else that's actually going to activate that North Node, that's actually going to help Virgo do the healing that it needs to. Mercury, planet of communication, travel. We have a Kazemi Day. Yay! You want to circle first, July 12th on your calendar. This is the day to publish something, engage in a very important conversation that you've maybe been avoiding, especially during the retrograde, because this is a Mercury Cazimi in a cycle that is retrograde. And then that actual retrograde period will conclude 11 days later. So all of that is contained within the month of July. So yes, Mercury stations retrograde just before July starts, but the meat of the retrograde itself is in July, as well as the conclusion of it is in July. And then we move into the post shadow. And a question that we could ask, what have I learned about my boundaries, defense mechanisms, and connection to spirit? Saturn stationing retrograde begins on July 26th, towards the end of the month. And then simultaneously, we have Jupiter in direct motion having a Cazimi. So this is the contrast that I want to raise. The Mercury Cazimi is a planet that is in retrograde, and the Jupiter Cazimi is a planet as in direct motion. Jupiter already had its annual retrograde. It just finished and is working its way out, but it's not going to take too long before Jupiter then starts that retrograde cycle all over again, enters the pre-shadow, then stations retrograde, but it's all going to be contained within that sign. Jupiter represents abundance and wisdom. Saturn represents maturity and time. So together, we have this combo over the course of very few days of this like 1-2 punch right at the end of the month that is stretching and confining us at the same time. To talk about the Saturn retrograde, the pre-shadow began in April on the 20th, and this retrograde, again starting on July 26th, goes until December 10th. Now this might sound familiar, and yes, that is because the timeline with Neptune is very, very close. So I was talking about that Neptune retrograde. Both of these are in Aries. So interestingly, they're pretty close to each other within the sign, and then their retrograde cycles are starting and ending around a very similar time. So as a refresher, the Neptune retrograde began on the 7th, so a couple weeks earlier, but it's ending on December 12th. So they're ending within a couple days of each other. So we're going to feel that relief from both of them in the sign of Aries right around the same time. So the Saturn retrograde then has a post shadow until March, where for Neptune, the post shadow was until April. How can I be more mature in my actions? Because we're talking about Aries here. What about my push for individuality should be built up versus dialed back? Saturn is a builder. Saturn is one that scales, which can include scaling down. So we want to think about how we are acting, how we are behaving. Again, this gets us back to our big theme. We're talking about this is the way. We're trying to figure out, starting now, through all of the Martian adventures, but also what is happening with Neptune and what is happening with Saturn over the next many, many months, because it's in Aries, a sign ruled by Mars. It's about our actions, about where we're trying to go, what we're trying to do, when we're going to get there. We want to get there now, but is that the right approach? The Jupiter Cazimi. This is big, bold, beautiful, in Leo for Leo season. So at this point, it's going to be Leo season. And this is a super expansive day, very exciting. For the Jupiter Cazimi, very simply, just check your chart for 6 degrees of Leo, see which life area we are talking about here, because this is a day for you to like toot your horn. This is a day to get playful. That's what Leo wants to do. Let's have fun. It's like have a day of fun, of self-expression, and like, getting out there, learning, making sure to temper your ego though. That's the thing we want to watch, because Leo has an ego and Jupiter is about growth. And we don't want to spend the next year of our lives with that Jupiter in Leo transit, by and large, with an ego getting deflated. That would be a negative, a low vibrational outcome. What we want is the growth in our authenticity, our self-expression, our loyalty, our connection to play. These are all the things that we want to nurture over the next year. We want to tap into these on the Cazimi days. And if you're finding that you're craving validation, then we want to find some other outlets, because we should be able to fill our own cup with joy, with pride, and confidence in ourselves. And a question that we can ask as a mediator to check what's happening here. Where am I not done growing? And the reason that this is a good check is because if we're thinking, oh my gosh, I am all that, I am awesome. If we're then asking, where am I not done growing? It's like, we can do better, yeah? And it's kind of pushing that. The lesson learned during this time period will illuminate our courage, stamina, cracks in our boundaries or wellness practices, and offer the wisdom to find a new way forward. Again, to recap, what we are trying to do, our mission for the month of July, is finding that way. We're landing on, oh, this is the way. And that is our ending, our conclusion. So ultimately, to bring all of this together across both of the forecasts, we are grappling with our actions and our perceptions. We are recalibrating both of those to refocus on what actually matters. In other words, our connection to ourself, our connection to spirit, our spirit team, guides, intuition, and long-term transcendence. Plus, we're finding new ways of understanding our valor, our abilities, truth, and feeling our way through the piercing light that is Leo season. Don't want to be blinded by it, but trying to find our way through that to grab a hold of those next steps by aligning with our purpose. So by the end of that month, keep in mind here, we're going to have a full moon right at the end of the month. And we especially, by that point, with everything that we've gone through, want to then ask ourselves, what have I really learned? this is the way. So it'll tell us what the way is. When we know what we've learned, that will tell us where to go. And that is how this month is different than June. Because for June, we were just trying to understand, we're trying to kind of keep up. We have a lot to process. There's a lot going on up here. And in July, we are, yes, in some ways reflecting. Yes, in some ways asking ourselves questions. But we also have a lot of actions that are taken and we're adjusting and we're like, oh, is that working? Is that not working? Oh, I should be considering this. I should be trying that. I should be incorporating these other things. And we're just trying to figure out what the way forward is. And it's almost like a trial and error type of experience. And all of that perspective, the perspective shifts, the checks, the reality checks, the information that comes in, those Kazemi days, we can use all of that to inform us and go, oh yeah, this is the way. Reflecting on the lessons learned comes at the end of July. Yes. Yeah, because some of those lessons are the checks that we have throughout the month, the adjustments that we have to keep making. It's like, oh, okay, that didn't work. Oh, all right, let's try this. Okay, let's try that. Like, what am I experimenting with? So it's more action driven, and we're trying different things based on what we're presented with, on what is coming forward, and or questions that we're asking ourselves. Like, okay, well, should this be my approach, or should I try this, or should I try that? And we can actually deal with that in real time and test things out. And then at the end, it's like, well, what did I learn from all of that? And then that will tell you, long and short, is like, so what worked? What didn't work? Why? Why does this matter? What does this mean for me? What does it mean for who I am, for what I want, how I can be in alignment? It's like in one question asking like 30 questions.